There are 347 steps between the East Wing and the Royal Chapel. Lady Victoria Ashford counted every single one on the morning she was supposed to marry a prince. By step 206, she was crying. By step 312, she had made her decision. By step 347, she had destroyed 3 families, broken a centuries-old alliance, and chosen a man who had nothing. Absolutely nothing. Except her heart. This is not a love story. This is a war story, where the battlefield was a palace, where the weapons were secrets and silence, and where the casualties were measured in broken vows and shattered bloodlines. Let me take you back 18 months. To understand why Victoria Ashford stood on those steps, you need to understand where she came from, and more importantly, what was expected of her. The Ashford family had been advisors to the British Crown for 4 centuries. Not royals themselves, but close enough to taste it. Close enough that their daughters were groomed from birth to marry well, to marry up, to marry power. Victoria was the eldest, the most beautiful, the most accomplished. She spoke 6 languages fluently, played Chopin like she was channeling his ghost, had degrees from Oxford and the Sorbonne, could navigate a state dinner with world leaders before she was 25. She was perfect, which meant she had no room for mistakes. Her father, Lord Thomas Ashford, had built his entire career on proximity to power. He sat on corporate boards, advised prime ministers, moved through Davos and Bilderberg meetings like a shark through water. And his greatest ambition? To see his daughter become a princess. Enter Crown Prince Edward of Denmark, 34 years old. Handsome in that bland, aristocratic way where generations of good breeding had ironed out anything interesting. Educated at Cambridge. Dutiful. Appropriate. Emotionally available as a marble statue. Their engagement was announced at a charity gala in London. Victoria wore a dress that cost more than most people earn in a year. Edward gave her a ring with a diamond the size of a robin's egg. The press called them the golden couple. Victoria called it a Tuesday. Because here's what the newspapers didn't tell you. She'd met Edward exactly 7 times before he proposed. They'd had perhaps 12 conversations, all of them about appropriate topics. The weather, art exhibitions, international relations. Never about hopes, or fears, or what kept them awake at night. Never about whether they actually liked each other. That wasn't the point. The wedding was set for June. 18 months of preparation. Every detail scrutinized. Every moment choreographed. Victoria threw herself into it. Because that's what you did. You fulfilled your duty. You made your family proud. You married the appropriate man and produced the appropriate heirs and lived the appropriate life. And if you felt hollow inside, well, that was the price of privilege. Her mother had told her once, over afternoon tea in their Mayfair townhouse, "Darling, love is a luxury. Marriage is a strategy. You'll learn to be content." Victoria was beginning to understand what she meant. She spent her days in fittings. Dress fittings. Tiara fittings. Meetings with wedding planners who handled royal affairs. Learning Danish protocols. Memorizing the lineage of Edward's family going back 12 generations. She was being remodeled, prepared, polished, like a diamond, beautiful and hard and cold. At night, alone in her childhood bedroom, because unmarried aristocratic women still lived with their families, even at 28, she'd look out at the London skyline and wonder if this was all there was. And then she met James Fitzgerald. It was an accident. A beautiful, terrible accident. The Ashford family owned a country estate in Gloucestershire. 200 acres of manicured grounds and a manor house that had been in the family for 8 generations. Victoria had gone down for a weekend, desperate to escape the wedding chaos. To breathe air that didn't smell like imported roses and diplomatic anxiety. The grounds needed work. Her father had hired a landscape architect to restore the formal gardens before the engagement photos were taken there. That architect was James. He was standing in the rose garden when she first saw him, dirt on his hands, squinting at the old garden plans, arguing with himself about drainage systems. He didn't notice her approach, didn't stand straighter, didn't defer. "Excuse me," she said, using her lady of the manor voice, the one that usually made staff scatter. He looked up, pushed sunglasses up into dark hair flecked with gray at the temples. "Yeah. Not rude. Just American. Casual. Like she was just another person." It startled her. "I wanted to see what you're doing to the gardens. Fixing what centuries of bad decisions broke," he said simply. Then he smiled. "No offense to your ancestors." She laughed. Actually laughed. When was the last time she'd done that? None taken. "I think great-great-grandfather Ashford had terrible taste." "The worst," James agreed. "He planted roses that hate this soil and built fountains that don't account for the water table. But we'll sort it." He talked about the gardens like they were patients, like he was healing them. And somehow, without meaning to, Victoria stayed, asking questions, listening to him talk about root systems and seasonal blooms and the way old estates needed to be loved, not just maintained. He treated her like she was intelligent, not decorative. It was intoxicating. "You're Lady Victoria Ashford," he said finally. "Not a question. A statement." "Yes." "The one marrying the Danish prince?" "Yes." He nodded, went back to his work. "Congratulations." But something in his tone suggested he wasn't sure if congratulations were appropriate. Neither was she. James stayed at the estate for 6 weeks. Victoria found reasons to be there for 5 of them. She told herself it was professional interest. She was learning about horticulture, about landscape design, about the history of English gardens. She was lying to herself. What she was actually doing was falling in love. It happened slowly, then all at once. In conversations about books they'd both read. In comfortable silences while he worked and she pretended to read nearby. In the way he looked at her like she was a person, not a pedigree. He told her about growing up in Oregon. About his ex-wife who'd left him for a tech billionaire. About his daughter who was studying marine biology and made him prouder than anything else in his life. He told her real things. Messy things. Human things. And she found herself telling him truths she'd never spoken aloud. "I don't love him," she said one afternoon. They were walking through the restored gardens. The roses were blooming. Everything was perfect and terrible. James stopped walking. "Edward. I don't even know him. Not really. I know his title, his pedigree, his diplomatic positions on climate policy. But I don't know if he's kind, or if he has nightmares, or what makes him laugh. Have you asked him?" You don't ask princes personal questions. You have appropriate conversations about appropriate topics. That sounds lonely. She looked at him then. Really looked at him. This American landscape architect with dirt under his fingernails and gray in his hair and eyes that saw her. "I'm desperately lonely," she whispered. "I've been lonely my entire life. And I'm about to marry someone who will make me lonelier still." James reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His hand lingered on her cheek. "Then don't." "I have to." "Why?" "Because it's what's expected. What my family needs. What I was raised to do." "That's not a reason. That's a prison sentence." And then he kissed her. Soft. Careful. Like she was something precious that might break. And Victoria Ashford, who had been so carefully controlled for 28 years, broke open like a dam. They had 7 weeks. 7 stolen, perfect, impossible weeks where Victoria lived 2 lives. During the day, she was Lady Victoria. She attended wedding planning meetings, smiled for photographers, accepted congratulations from family friends, practiced her Danish. At night, she drove to the estate, to James, to the only place she felt real. They made love in the gardener's cottage like they were ordinary people. Like she wasn't nobility and he wasn't hired help. Like the outside world didn't exist. He cooked her simple meals. Pasta with fresh tomatoes from the garden. Bread from the village bakery. Wine that cost less than what she spent on lipstick. It was the best food she'd ever eaten. They talked until dawn about everything. About his dreams to design public gardens where children could play. About her secret desire to work for UNESCO, to actually do something meaningful instead of just attending galas about meaningful things. About how different their worlds were. About how little that seemed to matter when they were together. "Come with me," he said one night. They were lying in bed, moonlight through the cottage windows. "After the gardens are done, come to America. Start over. Be whoever you want to be." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I'm Lady Victoria Ashford. Because my family has sacrificed everything for this marriage. Because 300 people are employed by my father's businesses and those businesses depend on the royal connections this marriage will bring. Because you're afraid." She sat up, angry. "Of course I'm afraid. Do you know what you're asking me to give up? My family. My name. My entire world. I'm asking you to give up a beautiful cage for an uncertain freedom. I know it's not fair. I know it's asking everything." He touched her face. "But I love you. And I think you love me. And I think 20 years from now, you'll regret spending your life with the wrong man more than you'll regret the scandal of choosing the right one." She didn't answer. Because he was right. And that terrified her. The affair was discovered by accident. Victoria's mother, Lady Catherine Ashford, arrived at the estate unannounced. She wanted to see the garden progress. To take photos for the engagement album. She found Victoria's car parked at the cottage. Found her daughter wrapped in a blanket, still in bed at 10 in the morning, with a man who smelled like soil and sweat and everything her mother had spent a lifetime teaching her to avoid. The silence was nuclear. "Get dressed," Lady Catherine said. Her voice could have frozen fire. "We are leaving. Now." Victoria started to speak. Her mother held up one perfectly manicured hand. "Not one word." The drive back to London took 2 hours. Her mother didn't speak. Didn't look at her. The disappointment was louder than any lecture could have been. When they arrived at the Mayfair townhouse, her father was waiting. Lord Thomas Ashford looked like someone had died. In a way, someone had. His ambitions. "Sit," he said. "Victoria Saturday." "How long?" 7 weeks. He flinched like she'd struck him. 7 weeks. 7 weeks you've been destroying everything I've built. Everything this family has worked for. Father, Do you have any idea what you've done? The scandal this will cause if anyone finds out? The alliance with Denmark is worth billions. Billions. Our business interests depend on royal access. And you've been fornicating with the gardener. The contempt in that last word was like acid. He's a landscape architect. Her father stood, towered over her. He's nobody. He has nothing to offer you except poverty and humiliation. And you are willing to throw away your future, your family's future. For what? Romance? Passion? Those things fade, Victoria. Power doesn't. Security doesn't. I love him. Love. Her father laughed. Bitter. You're 28 years old and you sound like you're 16. Love is a chemical reaction. It's temporary. What you're feeling now will be gone in a year. And you'll be left with nothing. No family. No money. No position. Is that what you want? I want to be happy. Happiness is a luxury we can't afford. We are Ashfords. We have responsibilities. Obligations. You will marry Edward. You will fulfill your duty. And you will never see that man again. Victoria looked at her father. This man who had raised her. Who had given her every advantage. who had also taught her that she was valuable only as long as she was useful. And if I refuse? The silence was sharp enough to draw blood. Then you are no longer my daughter. You will be cut off. Financially, socially, completely. No trust fund. No inheritance. No family support. You'll be erased from the Ashford lineage like you never existed. And I promise you, that American won't stay when the novelty wears off and he realizes you come with nothing but a disgraced name. Her mother finally spoke. Quiet. Deadly. Choose carefully, Victoria. Because you only get to make this choice once. Victoria had 48 hours to decide. Her father gave her that much. 2 days to choose between everything she'd ever known and everything she'd ever wanted. She wasn't allowed to leave the townhouse. Wasn't allowed her phone. It was a genteel imprisonment. Afternoon tea was served at 4. Dinner at 8. Her mother made polite conversation about the weather. As if Victoria's entire life wasn't collapsing. She lay awake both nights, staring at the ceiling of her childhood bedroom, doing arithmetic on different kinds of poverty. Financial poverty she could handle. She was educated. Capable. She could work. But social poverty? That was different. In her world, being cut off didn't just mean losing money. It meant losing your name, your friends, your entire support system. People wouldn't take your calls. Invitations would stop. You'd become invisible. A cautionary tale other mothers would tell their daughters. Remember Lady Victoria Ashford? She threw it all away for a gardener. Now she's nobody. Don't make her mistakes. On the second night, her younger sister Genevieve snuck into her room. Jen was 23. Rebellious. The one who'd been caught smoking at boarding school and dating inappropriate men and generally giving their parents gray hair. She curled up on Victoria's bed like they were children again. Are you really going to do it? Jen asked. Run away with him? I don't know. Do you love him? So much it hurts. Jen was quiet for a moment. Then, Victoria, I've watched you my entire life be perfect. Perfect grades. Perfect manners. Perfect everything. And you know what? You've never looked happy. Not once. Until this summer. Until him. That's not enough. Love isn't enough. Maybe not. But neither is duty. And you're about to spend the rest of your life being miserable for people who only love you when you do what they want. Is that really better? Victoria hadn't allowed herself to cry. Not during the confrontation. Not during the 2 days of house arrest. But now, with her sister's arms around her, she broke. I'm so scared. General, what if Father's right? What if James leaves me when things get hard? What if I'm making the biggest mistake of my life? What if you're not? Jen held her tighter. What if you're finally making the first real choice of your life? You've been performing for them since you were born. Maybe it's time to be real. The next morning, Victoria asked to see Edward. Her father arranged it. A private meeting at the Danish embassy. Neutral ground. Edward arrived in a suit that probably cost more than James earned in a year. He sat across from her in a formal reception room, surrounded by portraits of Danish royalty going back generations. He already knew. Of course he did. These things didn't stay secret among their class. I suppose congratulations are in order, he said. Not quite bitter. Just resigned. You've managed to create quite the scandal. I'm sorry. Are you? He studied her. You don't look sorry. You look terrified, but not sorry. I never meant to hurt you. You haven't. He said it simply. Matter of fact. We weren't in love, Victoria. We both knew that. This was a strategic alliance, beneficial to both our families. But it wasn't a love match. Then why are you here? Because I wanted to tell you something before you make your decision. He leaned forward. I've been where you are. Not exactly, but close. When I was 26, I fell in love with a woman who worked at a museum. She was brilliant, funny, Real. Everything the women in our circle aren't. Victoria waited. My parents gave me the same choice yours are giving you. I chose duty. I chose my title. And I've regretted it every single day since. She's married now, Edward continued. Has 3 children. Looks happy in her Christmas cards. And I'm 34, about to enter a loveless marriage of convenience, because that's what princes do. We sacrifice ourselves on the altar of duty, and we call it noble. He stood, buttoned his jacket. If you marry me, Victoria, I promise I'll be kind. I'll be faithful. I'll give you everything money and position can buy. But I won't give you what that American can. I won't give you love. Because I don't know how. I gave that ability away 10 years ago when I let fear make my decisions. What should I do? I can't tell you that. But I can tell you this, the prison of duty is comfortable. Beautiful, even. But it's still a prison. And no one on their deathbed wishes they'd been more dutiful. They wish they'd been braver. He kissed her forehead. Formal. Almost brotherly. I release you from our engagement. Officially. Tell your father the decision was mutual. That we discovered we weren't compatible. It'll minimize the scandal. You do that for me. I'm doing it for both of us. Maybe if you're brave enough to choose love, it'll remind me that it's possible. That we're not all doomed to beautiful, hollow lives. He left. And Victoria sat in that room, surrounded by centuries of royal duty, and realized that Edward had just given her the rarest gift anyone in their world could give, permission to be human. That night, Victoria wrote 2 letters. The first was to her parents. It was formal, apologetic, final. I will always love you. I will always be grateful for everything you've given me. But I cannot marry Edward. I cannot live the life you've planned for me. I choose love. I choose uncertainty. I choose myself. I'm sorry I'm not the daughter you wanted. But I'm learning to be the woman I need to be. The second letter was to James. I'm terrified. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm walking away from everything for the possibility of something real. Meet me at the cottage tomorrow at dawn. If you still want me when I come with nothing, I'm yours. She left both letters on her father's desk. And then she packed one suitcase with practical clothes, her grandmother's pearls, the only jewelry that was truly hers, and her passport. At 3 in the morning, she walked out of the Mayfair townhouse. She didn't look back. The drive to Gloucestershire took 2 hours. She'd stolen her mother's car. That would be added to the list of her crimes. The sun was just beginning to rise when she pulled up to the cottage. James was already there, sitting on the front step, like he'd been waiting all night. He stood when he saw her, just stood there, waiting. Victoria got out of the car, walked toward him. I have nothing, she said. No money, no family, no title anymore. My father has probably already started the process to disown me. I'm about to be the most notorious woman in England, and I have no idea what happens next. James smiled, slow and sure. But you're here. I'm here. That's everything. He pulled her into his arms. And for the first time in her life, Victoria Ashford felt like she'd come home. The scandal was immediate and brutal. By noon, it was in the Times. By evening, it had made international news. Lady Victoria Ashford abandons prince for American gardener. The Ashford disgrace. Aristocrat throws away title for love. Denmark engagement shattered. British lady chooses working man over crown prince. The press were vicious. The society pages were worse. Victoria's father kept his promise. By the end of the week, she was officially disowned. Her trust fund frozen. Her name removed from the family estate documents. Lady Victoria Ashford no longer existed in any legal sense. She was just Victoria now. No title, no family, no safety net. The invitations stopped. The friends stopped calling. People she'd known her entire life crossed the street to avoid her. It was social annihilation. James took her to Oregon, to his small house outside Portland. 3 bedrooms, a mortgage, a garden he'd built himself. It was smaller than her childhood bedroom. It was perfect. But perfect doesn't pay bills. Victoria had her degrees, her languages, her impeccable education, but she didn't have a work permit, didn't have American credentials, didn't have references she could use without explaining why the daughter of Lord Ashford was applying for entry-level positions. She ended up working at a bookstore. Minimum wage. No benefits. The woman who had once helped plan state dinners was now shelving books and working the register for $9 an hour. James was busy with projects, traveling for work. She was alone in a foreign country, in a small house, doing work that didn't challenge her, without the support system she'd taken for granted her entire life. And for the first time, she understood what her father had meant about love not being enough. The fights started small. "I'm trying," she'd snap when James gently suggested she was using too much hot water. In England, she'd never thought about utility bills. Here, every dollar mattered. "I know," he'd say. Patient. Understanding. Which somehow made it worse. She didn't want patience. She wanted her old life back. The one where she didn't have to worry about money or work or whether she was a burden. 3 months in, his daughter came to visit. Rachel was 21. Beautiful. Confident. Everything Victoria had been at that age, except American and uncomplicated. She was polite. Friendly, even. But Victoria could see the question in her eyes. What does my dad see in this uptight British woman who can't even navigate a grocery store without having an existential crisis? One night, Victoria overheard Rachel talking to James in the kitchen. "Are you sure about this, Dad? She seems lost. Like she doesn't know how to function in the real world. She gave up everything for me. She needs time to adjust. Or maybe she needs to go back to her real life. This isn't working. You can see that, right?" Victoria packed her bags that night. Not to leave, but to be ready, in case James realized his daughter was right. She sat on the edge of the bed, holding her grandmother's pearls, the only piece of her old life she had left, and she cried. Quiet, careful, the kind of crying where you don't want anyone to hear. James found her anyway. "Hey." He sat beside her. "What's wrong?" "I don't belong here. Rachel's right. I don't know how to function in the real world. I'm useless. I gave up everything and I can't even support myself. I'm just dead weight." "You're not." "I am." She turned on him, months of frustration exploding. "I'm a burden. I can't work without a visa. I can't contribute financially. I can't even cook a proper meal without burning it. Everything I was good at, languages, diplomacy, social graces, none of it matters here. I'm nobody. I've made you nobody by association." James was quiet for a long moment. Then he took her hands. "Victoria, look at me." She did. Through tears. "You gave up your entire world for me. Your family. Your money. Your name. Do you think I don't know how hard this is? Do you think I expect you to just seamlessly transition from literal aristocracy to working at a bookstore? Then what do you expect? I expect you to keep trying. I expect you to have bad days. I expect you to resent me sometimes for what you gave up. That's normal. That's human. But I don't expect you to be perfect. I never did. That's the whole point." "What point?" "You were performing perfection your entire life. For your parents. For society. For Edward. You were a performance. And I fell in love with the real you. The messy, complicated, uncertain you. So stop trying to be perfect at poverty. Just be." "I don't know how to just be." "I know. But we'll figure it out. Together." He held her while she cried. Really cried. For her family. For her old life. For the version of herself she'd killed to become someone new. Grief is necessary for transformation. And Victoria was transforming. Painfully. Slowly. But transforming nonetheless. 2 weeks later, something shifted. She'd been working at the bookstore when a customer came in. An older woman, elegant, with an accent Victoria immediately recognized as continental European. They started talking. Books. Literature. Languages. The woman was a professor of comparative literature at Portland State. Your analysis of Tolstoy is remarkable, the professor said. Where did you study? Oxford. And the Sorbonne. And you're working in a bookstore? Victoria smiled. Sad but honest. It's a long story. I have time. So Victoria told her. Not everything, but enough. The woman listened, didn't judge. At the end, she handed Victoria her card. I need a research assistant. Someone who can work with multiple languages, who understands European literature, who can think critically. The pay isn't much by American standards, but it's better than retail. And it's work that might actually use your brain. Victoria stared at the card. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Because I left my country 30 years ago for a man. And I know what it's like to start over with nothing. Someone helped me then. I'm paying it forward. That night, Victoria told James about the job offer. It's part-time, she said. But it's something. Something real. Something I'm actually good at. James pulled her close. Kissed her forehead. I'm proud of you. I haven't done anything yet. You survived. You didn't run back to England when it got hard. You're still here. That's everything. And for the first time since leaving London, Victoria felt like maybe, just maybe, she was going to be okay. Different. Smaller, by some measures. But okay. 8 months after Victoria left England, her mother died. Heart attack. Sudden. She was 59. The notification came through Victoria's old email. A formal message from the family solicitor. Lady Catherine Ashford passed away on the morning of November 12th. Services will be held at St. Margaret's Church, Westminster. The family has asked that you respect their privacy during this difficult time. Translation: don't come. You're not wanted. Victoria read it 3 times. Then she walked into the garden and screamed until her throat was raw. James found her on her knees in the dirt, sobbing. Not elegant crying. Ugly, guttural grief. My mother is dead, she said. And I can't even go to her funeral. Yes, you can. You don't understand. I'm not welcome. My father made that clear. Your mother is dead. Your father doesn't get to control whether you grieve her. They flew to London. James insisted on coming with her. Victoria wore black. Simple. Nothing that would draw attention. The church was packed. Society had turned out for Lady Catherine Ashford. Victoria slipped into the back row, hood up, invisible. Until her sister saw her. Genevieve was in the front row, between their father and their younger brother. She turned, some instinct making her scan the crowd. Their eyes met. Jen stood, walked down the aisle, past hundreds of confused aristocrats, sat down next to Victoria and took her hand. You came, Jen whispered. I had to. Father will be furious. I know. Good. He should be. None of this is your fault. Not her death. Not the choices you made. You were brave. She was proud of you, you know. She told me before she died. Said she wished she'd been as brave as you when she was young. Victoria started crying again. Quiet tears that wouldn't stop. After the service, Lord Thomas Ashford approached her. In front of everyone. The entire church watching. He looked older. Grayer. Like grief had aged him a decade. You should not have come, he said. Cold. Formal. She was my mother. You gave up the right to call her that when you walked away. I walked away from you, Victoria said. Quiet but firm. Not from her. Not from loving my family. You're the one who made me choose. And I chose myself. That doesn't mean I stopped loving you. It just means I couldn't keep sacrificing myself for your ambitions. Her father flinched, like she'd struck him. Your mother's death is on your hands. The stress you caused, the scandal, it weakened her heart. The doctors said. No. Genevieve stepped forward. Fierce. Protective. Don't you dare. Mother died because she had a genetic heart condition. The same one that killed grandmother. Not because Victoria chose to be happy. You don't get to rewrite history to make yourself the victim. The crowd was silent, watching this family's private pain on public display. Lord Thomas looked at his daughters. At Victoria, who'd chosen love over duty. At Genevieve, who was defending that choice. You've both disappointed me, he said finally. Your mother would be ashamed. No, a voice said from behind them. Prince Edward. He'd attended the funeral. She wouldn't. Edward walked up to them. Addressed Lord Ashford directly. Lady Catherine spoke to me 2 weeks before she died. At a charity function. She asked about Victoria. Whether I'd heard from her. Whether she was happy. She had no business. She was a mother asking about her daughter. And I told her the truth. That Victoria is happy. That she's building a life with a man who loves her. That she had the courage to choose authenticity over comfort. And do you know what Lady Catherine said? Edward paused. Let the moment sit. She said, good. I hope she never comes back. This world would only break her again. Victoria stared at Edward. She said that. She did. She loved you. She was proud of you. And she understood what you gave up better than you know. Because she'd made the opposite choice 40 years ago. She married for duty. For family. For all the right reasons. And she spent her life wondering what it would have been like to be brave. Edward turned to Lord Ashford. Your daughter didn't kill your wife. Your wife died wishing she'd been more like your daughter. He walked away. The crowd dispersed. Scandal satisfied. Story complete. Victoria's father stood there, surrounded by the wreckage of his family. I did what I thought was right, he said. Quiet. Almost to himself. I protected our legacy. Our name. You protected an idea, Victoria said. Not people. Not love. Just an idea of what we were supposed to be. And it cost you both your daughters. Was it worth it? He didn't answer. He walked away. And Victoria realized she wasn't angry anymore. She was just sad. For him. For the prison he'd built for himself out of duty and pride. Genevieve hugged her tight. Come back to the house. Please. Just for a bit. I miss you. Victoria looked at James. He nodded. They went back to the Mayfair townhouse. The place Victoria had walked out of 8 months earlier. It looked the same. Felt different. Genevieve made tea. They sat in the drawing room. Victoria told her sister about Oregon. About the bookstore. About the research job. About learning to be ordinary and finding extraordinary in it. Do you ever regret it? Jen asked. Every day, Victoria said honestly. And not at all. I regret the pain it caused. I regret not having more time with Mother. But I don't regret choosing James. I don't regret choosing myself. Are you happy? Victoria thought about it. Really thought. I'm becoming happy. I'm learning how. It's harder than I thought. But yes, I'm happy. Before they left, Genevieve gave Victoria a letter. Sealed. Mother asked me to give this to you if you ever came back. She wrote it a week before she died. Victoria opened it in the car. James drove while she read. My dearest Victoria, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I hope you came to my funeral. I hope you didn't let your father stop you. He means well, but he's a coward. We both are. Were. I want you to know something I should have told you the day you left. I was jealous. Jealous of your courage. I married your father because my parents told me to. Because he was appropriate. Successful. And I convinced myself that was enough. It wasn't. I spent 40 years in a beautiful cage. And I watched you unlock the door and fly away. And part of me hated you for it. Because you did what I couldn't. But mostly, I was proud. So incredibly proud. You're going to have a hard life, darling. Money makes everything easier. Don't let anyone tell you it doesn't. But you're going to have something I never had. A real life. An authentic life. A life you chose. That's worth more than all the diamonds in the world. Be happy, my darling girl. And if you can, forgive me for not being braver. For not standing up to your father. For teaching you duty before joy. You're the best thing I ever made. Not because you were perfect, but because you had the strength to become imperfect. All my love, always, Mother. Victoria folded the letter carefully, put it in her purse next to her grandmother's pearls. 2 inheritances, the only ones that mattered. You okay? James asked. Yeah, she said. And she meant it. Take me home. London. No. Oregon. Home. 3 years later. Victoria and James got married in his backyard. 20 people attended. His daughter. His ex-wife, surprisingly. A few close friends. The professor who'd given Victoria her job. Genevieve flew from London. She'd been disowned too, eventually. For refusing to marry an appropriate banker and instead opening a gallery for emerging artists. Lord Ashford apparently didn't learn from his mistakes. The sisters had each other now. That was enough. Victoria wore a simple dress from a department store. No tiara. No train. No 300 guests or royal protocols. Just her. And James. And vows they actually meant. When James said "I do," his voice cracked. When Victoria said it, she meant it more than she'd meant anything in her life. She became a citizen 2 years later. Took the oath. Became American. Victoria Fitzgerald. No lady. No title. Just a woman who taught comparative literature at a state university and spent her weekends helping James with garden designs. She published a book. A memoir called The Other Side of Duty. It was honest. Raw. About class and privilege and the cost of choosing love over legacy. It became a bestseller. Turns out, a lot of people were trapped in their own versions of duty, waiting for permission to be brave. The money from the book gave them security, not wealth. Security. They paid off the mortgage, put some away for retirement, donated the rest to a foundation that helped women leaving abusive or controlling situations. Victoria knew what it was like to escape a beautiful prison. She wanted to help others do the same. Her father died 4 years after her mother. Heart attack. Like mother, like father. Jen called to tell her. The funeral is Tuesday. Will you come? Should I? He left you something in his will. And I think he wanted to make amends. He never said it, but he kept every article about your book. Had them in his study. Victoria did go. Sat in the back again. Didn't speak to anyone except Jen. At the reading of the will, the solicitor handed her an envelope. Inside, a letter and the deed to the Gloucestershire estate. The letter was short. Victoria, I was wrong. About everything. I sacrificed my family for an idea of what family should be. I lost both my daughters and my wife because I couldn't let go of control. The estate is yours. Do with it what you will. I know you won't want it. But it's the only way I know to say I'm sorry. You were right. And I was a coward. Father. Victoria sold the estate. All 200 acres. used the money to start a foundation for young women from working-class backgrounds to attend university. She named it the Catherine Ashford Foundation, after her mother. It felt like closing a circle, turning inherited guilt into inherited possibility. On their 5th anniversary, James took Victoria back to the cottage where they'd first fallen in love. It had been sold, but the new owners let them visit. They walked through the gardens. Everything had changed. New plants, new designs, but the bones were the same. "Do you ever miss it?" James asked. "Your old life?" Victoria thought about it, honest with herself. "I miss my mother. I miss feeling secure. I miss not worrying about money, even though we're fine now. I miss speaking French over breakfast and having staff to handle everything." She paused. "But I don't miss performing. I don't miss feeling like a decorative object. I don't miss walking on eggshells around my father. I don't miss being Lady Victoria, who was perfect and empty and slowly disappearing. And now I'm just Victoria. And I'm real. And that's harder and better and more complicated than anything I imagined." She kissed him. "I'd choose you again. Every time. In every version of this story. Even knowing how hard it would be. Especially knowing how hard it would be. Because easy isn't the same as good. And what we have is very, very good." They had a daughter the next year, Catherine Rose Fitzgerald, after Victoria's mother and the gardens where her parents fell in love. Victoria held her in the hospital and cried. Happy tears this time. This little girl would never have to choose between duty and love. Would never have to perform perfection. Would be raised knowing that her worth wasn't in her last name or her connections or how well she could navigate society. She'd just be loved. Completely. For exactly who she was. "She has your eyes," James said softly. "And your stubbornness," Victoria replied. "She's going to be extraordinary. She already is." Genevieve came to visit when Catherine was 3 months old. She'd just gotten engaged to an artist. Someone completely inappropriate by Ashford standards. Perfect by everyone else's. "Do you think Mother would be proud?" Jen asked, holding her niece. "I know she would." "And Father?" "Eventually. Maybe. In his own way." "Does it matter?" Victoria looked at her daughter. At her sister. At James sleeping in the chair, exhausted from 3 months of new parenthood. At the life she'd built from nothing. "No," she said. "It doesn't matter at all." 10 years after Victoria walked down those 347 steps, a journalist interviewed her for a documentary about women who'd walked away from privilege. "Do you have any regrets?" the journalist asked. Victoria was 40 by then. Grey beginning to thread through her hair. Lines around her eyes from smiling. Her hands showed work. Real work. She looked like a woman who had lived. Not performed. Regrets? Victoria considered. Yes. And no. Explain. "I regret the pain I caused. My mother, especially. The years we lost. I regret that my father died before we could reconcile. I regret that I had to choose it all, that love and duty were presented as incompatible." She paused. "But I don't regret choosing love. I don't regret choosing myself. Because the alternative was slow death. Beautiful. Comfortable. Hollow. And I was disappearing." What would you say to other women in similar situations? Women trapped by family expectations, by class, by duty. Victoria leaned forward, looked directly at the camera. "I would say this, your life is yours. Not your family's. Not society's. Yours. And you have permission to choose yourself. Even if it's hard. Even if people are disappointed. Even if you lose things you thought you couldn't live without. Because here's what no one tells you. You can survive losing everything external. Money. Status. Family. You can rebuild from nothing. But you can't survive losing yourself. That's a death you don't come back from."
Will it be hard?
Yes. Will you doubt yourself?
Absolutely. Will there be days you wonder if you made the right choice? Of course.
But there will also be days where you wake up next to someone who loves you for real. Days where you do work that matters to you. Days where you look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back. And those days make everything worth it. The journalist asked one final question. If you could go back and tell your younger self, the Victoria standing on those palace steps, one thing, what would it be?
Victoria smiled.
The kind of smile that comes from surviving something you weren't sure you would.
I'd tell her, jump. The fall is terrifying.
But you'll learn to fly on the way down. The documentary ended with footage of Victoria's life now.
Teaching her class.
Students engaged, challenged, thinking.
Working in her garden with James. Still arguing about drainage systems. Still laughing.
Playing with Catherine, who was 8 now. Reading her bedtime stories about brave women who chose themselves.
Having dinner with Genevieve and her family.
The sisters who'd rebuilt their world from scratch.
It wasn't the life she was born into. It was better. Because it was hers.
The camera lingered on one final image, Victoria at her desk, writing. The window behind her showed an ordinary neighborhood.
Not a palace.
Not even a particularly nice street.
Just a middle-class American suburb.
And on her desk, in a simple frame, a photograph from her wedding day.
No tiara. No designer dress.
Just her and James, laughing like idiots, completely in love. Next to it, her grandmother's pearls.
And her mother's final letter. Reminders. That love is a choice.
That courage is cumulative. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is disappoint the people you love to become the person you need to be.
There are 347 steps between who you're supposed to be and who you actually are. Victoria Ashford counted every one.
And at the end, she found herself. That's the only inheritance that matters.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share.